back to the Preston Lopez Show, and I am here with photographer and writer Lester Blum. So welcome back to the Preston Lopez Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So the last time we spoke to Lester, he wrote this book about the adventures of two children. Yes.
Alex and Kathy,
Nice.
Beyond the Swirl. It's a fantasy book geared for children 6 to 12 years old.
Okay, so now from there we have moved from fantasy world and children. We have moved to something a little bit more adult-like, would you say?
Oh, I would say definitely adult-like.
Okay, so can you tell us what are you working on now?
Yes, I'm working actually on a memoir that takes place during the war years of World War II. The title is Through the Eyes of a PFC, 1942 to 1945. And what prompted it was, well, several things. First of all, I discovered a cache of pictures and negatives that my father had saved from the war. And in looking at these negatives, I discovered there's a story to be told here. Also, most of the pictures were taken by a camera that he acquired soon after the troops arrived in Naples in 1943. This was called the Smile camera. It's an Italian camera. And he took most of these pictures that are going to be appearing in the book with this camera. He even made a case, which he carried throughout the war. In many of the pictures, you actually see him with the case on his shoulder when he's in places like Naples, Rome, etc.
Now, I want to ask you something, sorry to interrupt you. What is the purpose of writing this book? And why so dramatic the change between writing a children's book to now a serious book? What is the importance and what is the difference?
Well, the importance, I think, is that we should always know our family history. And every family has history, and it's just a matter of digging, finding, and putting it together. And I think it's important for the heritage of the children, the grandchildren, to see what transpired. What did someone like my father go through during the war? It's an era that we have no conception of, yet it had a profound effect on their entire lives. Why go from fantasy to reality?
Yes.
I think it's to record something that needs to be recorded. If only for myself, my sister, my nephew, but also for people to understand the history. It's been 75 years since these pictures were taken, and it's a slice of life.
And I understand that one of your thinking or the motivations, I would say, was because you want to emphasize the story, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I misunderstood, but you want to emphasize the story in the fact of what is not written in history books, something like that, in terms of like, we always read about the general and the captains and the lieutenants,
right,
and the people who are famous when it comes to battles and wars. But we don't really pay attention to the little people, so to speak, or like, I mean, how do you explain that in a...
Well, history of war is usually written through the eyes of the conquering general or the heroic deeds of one or two individuals throughout different battles. But it's the actual men on the front lines, the men that are creating the food to feed thousands of men, the men that are like taking care of the sick. Those are the unsung heroes, and very little is written about them. And I think the world should know. It's similar to what's going on today. You have heroes in the COVID crisis, and yet some of the real heroes is the delivery boy, the man taking your garbage from your building. Those are your heroes. Okay. And I think they need to be sung.
Of course. We are so happy and so excited that you are motivating yourself to write something different, and we cannot wait to see it and to read it. But before we go and before we finish the segment, there is a piece of I guess, uniform that your father wore. Can you show us, please? This is like really awesome.
This was his dress jacket. It's commonly called an Eisenhower jacket. That was my father's. There's his name and serial number written in the jacket. Here's the insignia of the division, which was commonly called the Custer Division. It was the 85th Infantry Division. And this jacket is almost 80 years old.
Wow. On that note, well, we want to thank you for coming again to the show and for bringing us a piece of history, I would say. We can wait to see it. We can wait to read it. So we will keep our viewers posted in your progress and when is it coming out and all the details.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the Preston Lopez Show, and thank you for the interview.